Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reading Reddit with Amber. Happy Spooky Sunday! Today I have a batch of stories for you from r/paranormal. Personally, I find these true encounters of the paranormal style stories ultra spooky, and I hope you are as creeped out by these as I am. I use creepy music in the background for these videos. Because the sound intensity level varies depending on whether you are listening with headphones or without, I have developed both a version that is best with headphones and a version that is best without. You are listening to the no headphones version. For the headphones version, click on the link in the description below. Our first story today is, when I was a teenager, my friends and I went to an abandoned haunted farmhouse at 3 a.m. and my friend ended up in the hospital. Hi everyone! I have never posted this before, but I thought that some of you may be interested in my experience. It may be long, but I'm going to try and make sure that I include every detail of what happened. When I was a 16-year-old girl, my friends and I decided that it would be fun to go out to an old abandoned farmhouse that was rumored to be haunted. We didn't really believe in ghosts at the time, but we were fascinated by the thrill of potentially experiencing something paranormal. So on a hot summer night in July, we decided to take 2 cars out to this abandoned farmhouse. There were 6 of us in total. It took about 45 minutes to drive to this place, so we left around 2:15 a.m. because we wanted to arrive at this place by 3 a.m., ghosting hour. To get to the house, we drove down a dark, winding rural road with houses few and far between. There weren't any streetlights, so although it was a warm summer night, it felt scary as we drove through the unfamiliar place in the pitch black. As we arrived at the house, I felt nearly sick to my stomach. I didn't believe in ghosts or the paranormal at the time, but something in my gut just felt wrong. It all felt wrong. The house was situated at the bottom of 2 hills, and there was no driveway in front of it, so we had to park at the top of the hill where there was an area off to the side of the road covered with crushed rock. We got there just in time to fulfill our plan of arriving at ghost hour. As we walked down the hill, we saw the house. It basically looked exactly how you would picture an old abandoned farmhouse. Exposed gray wood, pieces of siding falling off, and overgrown plants around the entrance. There were 2 levels to the house. The first level had 2 windows on either side of the door, and the top had 3 windows, one to the left, above the door, and to the right. As we walked closer to the house, we saw that the door was open, so we dared each other to go inside. We formed a line to enter the house. 2 of my friends, who were guys, went in front of me, and I was the third in line to enter the house. The first guy is friend number 1, and the second is friend number 2. As we entered the house, I immediately felt ice cold. I have never felt that kind of cold in my life. I felt it in my bones. As soon as I felt that cold, I heard friend number 1 scream at the top of their lungs. It all happened so fast that I could barely make out what it looked like inside. I mostly remember an uninviting couch laid across the stairs, with the living room to the left of the stairs and the kitchen to the right. It was like walking back in time. Old floral wallpaper peeling off the walls. So when the second friend 1 screams, we all ran out of the house immediately. As I looked back toward the entrance, I noticed that only friend 2 exited the house behind me, and friend 1 was still screaming inside the house, like blood-curdling in fear screams. It happened so fast. So friend 2 runs back into the house and grabs friend 1 and pulls him out. My first friend was so scared, he ran out from the house screaming that something was holding him up in the air by his shirt. He rips off his shirt while he's running, and all I see are these 3 big tears in the back of it. It kind of looked like 3 prongs from a pitchfork ripped through it. But it doesn't end there. As my second friend stepped foot outside the door, he starts yelling in pain. I looked back, and he had blood dripping all over his face onto his shirt. I literally felt like I was in a horror movie. He came toward me, and I was full instinct mode. I took off my sweater and gave it to him to try to stop the bleeding. He just tells me that something hit him in the nose and that he needs to get to the hospital. So we run back up the hill, which felt like 1,000 years, to the car. When we get into the car, I get friend 2 the tissues to clean up his nose, and I shine my light onto it to see what was bleeding. His right nostril had a clean cut all the way through it, like it looked like someone took scissors or shears and cut all the way through it. And it gets worse. As we're driving away, my friend and I both look back to the house, and there's a candle lit in the top left window. Then I look to the other side of the road, I still want to cry when I think about this. I have the image and feeling just burned into me. And there's this old trailer with the light on and the silhouette of a man with a hat on in the window. I am 100% convinced that this man was an evil spirit. Just the feeling I got of him just staring at me, watching me as I drove by. I still feel chills when I think about it. I felt like it was a warning never to come back to his property. It felt like he was the spirit that hurt both of my friends and that he was sending me a message. On the drive back, we ended up bringing my friend to the nearest ER where they stopped the bleeding and stitched up his nose. He still has a scar from it, and his right nostril still looks like dog-eared from where it split apart through the stitches when it healed. Note, I will absolutely never mess around with the paranormal ever again. I am 26 now, and I will not ever go near a house rumored to be haunted ever again. I did some research about the house, and it turns out that 2 people died in the top left room of the house. One by suicide and another was a woman in childbirth, so it makes sense that there was a couch that blocked the path up the stairs. And then OP notes that she doesn't have a picture of her friend's nose from when this all happened, but she does have a picture of the scar on his nose, and so if you go to the original post, you can go click through to see that scar. Our next story is called a Ouija board experience, and as we all know, if we've seen any horror movies, you just don't want to mess with the Ouija boards. I have always been interested in the paranormal and going ghost hunting, as me and my friends call it. This story takes place on an October night in 2005. We had gathered at my dad's house for a party. He lived way out in the country in an old farmhouse. We decided to drive up the road to an old cemetery because one of my friends showed up with an Ouija board. I said we weren't going to use it at my house, but I was game to use it somewhere else. About 6 of us piled into the vehicles and took off. When we got there, we set the Ouija board up on an old concrete barrier that surrounded the entrance of the cemetery. For context, the cemetery was set on a hill, surrounded by cow pastures, fields, and trees. Across the road stood an old white church. There were 2 security lights that lit the church area and the entrance to the cemetery. There was one more security light that lit the field, next to the only house for about 2 miles. We all stood in a circle, planchette in the centers, hands on it. My friend led the seance and asked if there was anything in the cemetery with us. At first, nothing happened and we all stood still and quiet. Then, the planchette slowly moved toward yes. Immediately, we all started accusing each other of moving it, but everyone swore they didn't. An eerie feeling fell over us as the planchette moved back to the center of the board. About that time, we heard what sounded like wind at first, but then began to get closer. It sounded like footsteps of multiple people running in circles all around us. We were all wide-eyed, looking at each other, when someone said, "I'm out!" Another person said, "We have to tell it bye or the spirits will follow." The leader of the group spoke to the board and said something along the lines of, "We are saying goodbye to you," and the planchette quickly jumped to no. It was pretty obvious by how shocked we all were that none of us had done that. Mind you, the sound of the footsteps are still surrounding us. The planchette moves to the center and we say bye again. Again it moves to no, then back to the center. This time we all say together, my friend's idea, "Goodbye, we are leaving," and it slowly, agonizingly slowly, moved to goodbye. We were relieved and took off, running to the cars, which were parked at the entrance on the cemetery side of the road. Me and my buddy jumped into my truck and I hear my friend scream, "Guys, I can't find my keys!" She checks the ignition, her pockets, all our friends check the car and their pockets, no keys. Everyone else loads back into the truck and we speed the 3 miles down the road to my dad's house. My friend searches her purse and pockets for the keys again, and we couldn't find them anywhere. Eventually, someone takes her home and she says she will get her spare set and get a ride back to her car in the morning. We were all too scared to go back and look that night. The next day my friend searches the cemetery and never finds the keys, even in broad daylight. We hadn't walked around a whole lot, and where we used the Ouija board was very close to where we parked our cars. Me and several friends scoured the entire cemetery over the next week or so, and never found the keys. My friend said that she was 100% positive that they were left in the ignition when she got out of the car. It's where I left mine and a common practice in the area where I am from, which like I said is pretty rural. This was by far my scariest, but not the only Ouija board experience I have. I have countless paranormal stories and would love to share more. Then our final story for the day is, there's something weird going on with my 3-year-old. Today I was doing my regular shopping with my children, my 3-year-old and my 6-month-old. While shopping, my 3-year-old got a little wooden doll. It's a kind of old school style wooden block person. I haven't been able to get a photo as she won't put it down. She started calling it Daniel. That was no big deal. We had ordered Uber Eats for dinner, and then as I looked at the status it says, "Your driver's name is Daniel." I brushed it off as a coincidence. I put on a YouTube video while I ate. It was just short stories. The first sentence of the first story was, "I don't want to go to Daniel's house." That's when things started feeling weird. She wanted to put this doll in the bathroom sink while she showered, and I told her no and to put it in her room. I showered her and then she got dressed and instantly grabbed the doll again. I put her to bed, not noticing she still had it. A couple minutes later she starts yelling. I went in to ask her what was wrong and noticed she was holding the doll. I asked her who she was talking to and she said Daniel. I asked her what they were talking about and she said Daniel is scared. I asked her why he was scared and she said because his family went into the water. She has never done anything like this before. I felt like I'm being watched all the time since moving into this house just over a year ago. I have had it in the past, so never thought much of it till now. The last few nights I have felt like I'm going to see someone on my back deck when I go out to make my 6-month-old a bottle during the night. Obviously there's never anyone there. However, a few nights ago, I swore I saw someone ducked down inside my 3-year-old's playhouse out in the yard. There wasn't anybody there as the window I saw it through was low enough that I can see her head even when she's sitting inside it. I have no idea what is going on, but any advice would help. It could all be a coincidence, but I need a second opinion. Edit. For everybody asking, I have added a photo of the doll. I didn't expect to get so many replies, but thank you everyone for all your advice. And then if you click on the link, you can see images of the doll. Edit 2. We just got home from swimming lessons. Usually she refuses to do anything without the teacher holding her, but today she dove off the edge and swam on her own. Even the teacher was surprised with her sudden confidence. This could just be nothing, but I thought it would be worth mentioning since he said his family went into the water. Edit 3. For about 10 minutes this afternoon, she was running around in the backyard screaming, "Daniel!" as if he was a lost animal or something. I have no idea why she was doing it as she had the doll. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving it a like or letting me know in the comments. I release new videos twice a week, funny or outrageous ones on Wednesdays and spooky ones on Sundays. Thanks for watching and have a great day.